Hello friend, thanks for joining me for another video blog. Hope you had a great week. And I am closing this month with the theme of joy. And of course I will always be talking about joy because healing, transformation, transcendence, it's about peeling off the layers that are preventing us to feel, to be in the state of joy, love, peace, freedom. So in this last video, addressing particularly the topic of joy, I want to speak about the inner child. Here is my inner child. I hold this picture, I have this picture around in my living room, and I have another one. Because when I look at this picture of this beautiful smile, I connect with joy in such a big and beautiful way. We need to talk about the inner child when it comes to joy, love, all the states that we want to live more in. And there are states that once we really let go the limiting beliefs, the childhood wounds that we all acquire, because we all suffered in our childhood some level, some type of trauma. And I used to say little trauma, big trauma. It's all trauma. Trauma is basically any time a child experiences lack of safety and lack of love. And any time a child experiences something that the body cannot process. When the child experiences anything that brings chaos and confusion into the child's body, that's a moment of trauma. So this, I think, really helps us to understand that we all had trauma in our childhood, okay? So we need to speak about the inner child as we speak about joy, because the inner child in us, this energy in us, this aspect of us or a part of us, is the one that holds the key of joy, of love, of peace, of freedom, of abundance, bliss, ecstasy. How many times maybe you have said, God, I need to bring that child in me and be more playful. I need to bring that child in me and be more spontaneous, right? So a lot of times when we're not able to experience authentic joy or experience joy consistently, we need to look at what part of us needs healing, what part of our inner child is seeking our own attention or love or understanding. She or he wants to be seen. I see a lot of people, I work with clients that deny that they had any type of trauma in childhood, and that's normal. We tend to put our parents in this pedestal unless you had really very difficult events with your parents. If you just have certain type of trauma, again, that you didn't feel safe or you didn't feel loved, but you might say it wasn't that big, you might be denying a difficult experience you had as a child that put an imprint in your body. Because trauma in childhood, any kind of trauma actually, happens in the body. It doesn't happen in the brain. It happens in the body. The body goes into a freezing state in that moment of fight or flight. The body can freeze, and when we freeze, we also freeze that emotional state that stays in the body through our adulthood. And until we address that trauma, it's in the body. That's why it's so important to work with skilled coaches or skilled therapists that understands how to help the person to let go the trauma out of the body. That's why just talking to coaches or talking to therapists won't help you to let go that trauma out of the body. The talk is important to help us to understand certain behaviors. Like I helped one of my clients yesterday to understand a behavior that she has to take care of her sister. Even today that her sister is in her 70s, I help her to understand why she has this sense of responsibility and obligation to always take care of her sister. I help her to understand that. So talk is important. And after talking, I helped her to release an amount of fear and anger that she was carrying in her body because of certain events that helped in her childhood. So we need to speak about the inner child when we talk about joy. So letting go baggage, limiting beliefs, limiting decisions that we made as a child. I'll give an example what a limiting decision is. I worked with a client months ago that when a certain event happened in her life, she was 5. She made a decision at that moment that she was not going to speak much. She was not going to be seen much. She was going to hide. And she shut down because of fear of being punished by her father if she was not a good, perfect girl. So we all had those moments in childhood that we made limiting decisions and we don't know because we forget. It's a survival coping mechanism that the child has in order to feel safe, in order to feel loved. I call the child a hero. The child is gifted with this ability to develop a survival mechanism in order to feel safe and to feel loved, because for a child, and we're all children, you might have children, the child will do anything to feel safe and to feel loved. So as we become adults and we healing all parts of us, in any healing process, we need to address the inner child. And you might work with other therapists that might call that the lower self, or might call that the ego or the shadow. And that terminology is not correct, because the ego and the shadow self are reflections of the wounded child. So because if the child stays wounded inside us, and we don't start seeing that child, start to even admitting to ourselves that we had a difficult time in childhood, because denial keeps the emotions repressed. And repression is what creates a lot of the chaos and turmoil that many of us, you might be experiencing, somebody you know might be experiencing. And typically we see that being expressed from a lot of people who do therapy for a lot of years, and again they're just doing talk therapy, but they're not releasing the trauma from the body. Or we see that happening with a lot of people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol or other substances to numb the pain. We also might see that among people who are just living in denial. They don't want to think or look at their childhood because it's painful. And again, when we don't look at our own pain, we create suffering. There's a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is necessary, suffering is optional. Suffering is the state that we live in when we're not willing to look at our pain. And healing, transformation is a journey of courage, is a journey of commitment to your health, to your well-being, and commitment to live your life fully. Because healing and transformation will require us to look at those times of pain. We do not need to relive the past. All we need to do is to connect with the emotion of the past, of the event, and use the past as an information to help us to understand our behavior in our present moment. The past carries the information about our present. Our history carries the information about our present. So, in our healing journey, we need to heal the inner child, because what happens as you start healing the inner child and she gets to be seen by you, she gets to be loved, understood, honored, respected by you, you start feeling so much joy, so much freedom, so much love in your heart. I have walked that path. I work with a very skilled therapist for 2 years on inner child healing. Now I'm able to do that myself. Sometimes, little residues, other layers show up, and I transform that. I allow those emotions to transmute. So anger gets released, sadness gets released, and then the other side of that, I get to experience a tremendous amount of joy. So we need to talk about the inner child. So if you want more information, if you have any question about inner child healing, any type of healing, just book a call. We can book a 30-minute call, free, on me, just to answer some questions and to see if I am the person who can support you on your healing journey. So learn how to honor your inner child, how to see her, and how to be with her, because she or he holds the key to joy, to love, and to freedom. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and please share this video if you found helpful for yourself, and help me to build this community. Thank you so much.